Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for attending our seminar today. Very happy that this week we've been hosting two visitors from Polytechnic University of Valencia. We have Professor Paolo Rosso, as well as Anastasia Yahanu, who's right over there. So that I don't forget, I would also like to say that we have a talk by Anastasia tomorrow on fake news at the university. If you didn't receive an announcement about it and you're interested in fake news, please let me know so I can invite you to that one as well.
Fake news detection.
Fake news detection. Sorry. So Paolo and Anastasia are from the PRHLT, which is the Pattern Recognition and Human Language Technology Research Center at Valencia, as well as the Language Engineering Lab, which is in the center.
Yeah, I mean, it's the lab I'm in charge of.
Yes.
That belongs to the center.
Yes. So Paolo is a full professor in computer science at Valencia. He's an expert on natural language processing and IR as well. Primarily, as you'll see from his talk, which is about profiling, he's very experienced with the detection of human and social attributes of people just by the way they behave in interactive media. And it's really interesting work, as you'll see. He's building models to detect not only people's demographic attributes, but opinions, so their stances on different social issues, so on and so forth. So I think without further... another thing I want to tell you about Paolo, because it's something which was of great interest to my colleagues and I, is that he's very, very active in organizing shared tasks evaluations for NLP and information retrieval tasks, which of course is extremely important. It's really the only way that we can understand if we are making progress as a field on these, having a benchmark data sets and working on a shared task and participating in an evaluation. He's arguably one of the most experienced researchers in Europe about this. He's organized well over 30 such shared tasks. So I think without further delay, Paolo, take it away.
Aristo, Kalimera to everybody. I think my Greek is over. Well, these days I learned also comodino and sabato just because we use the same words in Italian. And so, yeah, that's it. I belong, as John said, I belong to the PRHLT Research Center, where not only natural language processing is addressed, but colleagues of mine address topics like computer vision, image retrieval, handwritten document recognition, machine translation, and so on. So yeah, I'm in charge of the research line that has to deal with natural language processing, and especially in social media. So we are interested in analyzing what's going on in social media in order to understand if, for instance, with respect to some controversial topics, I don't know, Brexit, the Catalan issue, and also we analyze the data about the US elections, what the people think about, if they are in favor or against. And then it's a matter, of course, also to understand if opinions are genuine or if they are deceptive. So it's a matter to detect fake opinion, fake information in social media. And with respect to opinion sentiment analysis, we are interested in understanding the polarity, so if the opinion is positive, negative. So when figurative language is used, like irony, then it's a problem in time also for us to understand what's going on, and even more for the automatic tools. And the last but not least, especially, we have been working on profiling, auto profiling. Right, so the outline, as you could see from the title of the talk, is first of all talking about how it's possible to profile demographics information from the writing, so from the words and how the words are used. Then I will say something about profiling votes. And so concretely with respect to the first part, I know that many of you maybe are not very much into natural language processing, so I will start with a seminal work of some colleagues about author profiling, how to infer the gender and age information. And then I will start saying something about the shared task we have been organizing at the PAN Lab at CLE since 2013, mainly focusing on the first edition of this shared task. I will say also the way we approach the problem ourselves, and I will end up talking about the task we organized this year at PAN, where the aim was to discriminate between bots and human. With respect to the third part, so that you could be profiled, don't worry, I won't address the problem, but you know the way it works. At least we have been profiled, or someone has been profiled by companies like Cambridge Analytica. So this is done, or it could be done on a daily basis, but today you are kind of safe, at least that would be. So auto profiling, why this task is important, is interesting. And well, from a forensic perspective, it's important because given a threat, an harassment, we want to, actually an harassment, I don't know, cyberbullying and, or misogyny, problems, it's important to infer who could be behind this harassment. From a security viewpoint, again, given a potential threat, it's important to understand who could have written this threat, if a male, female, of what age, and so on. Marketing is not only a matter to classify the opinions in terms of their polarity, or given a service from a company or a product, or even, reputation of a person, let's say, of a business person. It's important not only to analyze the text in order to infer the polarity, if they are talking positively or negatively about the target, but it's also important to infer who could have written something that maybe is negative, because these are the more important opinions to analyze. So this is also important. So from a social political analysis, given a controversial topic like the one I mentioned before, it's important to not only analyze the stance, who is in favor, Brexit, who is against, but also to understand from the social media data who could have been voted in favor or against. So gender and age identification, this will be basically what I will be addressing this talk. It's possible also to recognize and to infer information about the personality, that actually this is, seems, what Cambridge Analytica did with the data that was used in order to profile users, potential electors in the United States, especially in certain states where the difference between the two candidates were minor. And so if, for instance, a user was kind of neurotic, so the dominant personality trait was neuroticism. So, you know, specific messages were sent like, don't worry, now Trump, our friend, will come, will build the wall, don't be worried about the Mexican people, and so on and so forth. But also it's important to infer information like, okay, maybe text are in English, but is this the native language of the person? Or okay, maybe it is, but what variety? From UK, from Australia, from the States, and so on. with respect to security, actually we are involved ourselves in a project with Carnegie Mellon Qatar. We have to work with Arabic data. I'm afraid to say that my Arabic is nearly like my Greek, but well, maybe I know some more words, but who knows. But we have colleagues there and PhD students from Palestine in Valencia that actually help in analyzing the data and in profiling who could be behind potential threats. So first of all, of course, it's a matter to understand that the writer is a deceiver, so maybe the threat is not to be taken into consideration very seriously, or maybe it's just ironic. I mean, there was a case in English, well, more than one case, but a case some years ago of two Irish young girls that were meant to celebrate something important and to go to the States, and they started tweeting, oh, we are going to destroy USA, in the sense that we are going to party all night long and so on. They were arrested when they landed. So yeah, this is important to discard. And then in the case of potential threat, as I say, it's important to understand who could have written this message. Male, female, approximately what age, the native language, in this case Arabic, or maybe the terrorist grew up in France, but no matter Arab origin, or maybe Arabic, but Arabic from where? Maghreb, from Egypt. So it's important to narrow down a little bit what the information of who could have been written this message. I'm talking already too much, so I would like you to be involved in my talk. So I don't ask you to talk, but at least the first part I would like to ask you to read. These are the two famous examples of a seminal work by Moshe Koppel, a guy who started working on author profiling well in advance, 10 years before then we started doing things. Actually, we had the pleasure to collaborate with him in order to organize the first shared task. But anyway, what I'm asking you, this is of course not, these are not a social media texts. What I'm asking you, if you don't mind, to read briefly the two texts, and one has been, I can tell you, has been written by a female, the other one by a male, and yeah, so I will ask you why. So first read, and then you can also talk. So just the male, female, and no angel, not something. You have to choose one or the other. Of course, with my students, I force them to vote. With you, I have to be polite, but I would appreciate if you could vote. So, how many of you think that the text on the left has been written by a female? 2, 4, 6. Okay, if you know. Okay, maybe you don't know. So, 2, 4. 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. So majority thinks that was written by a male, and
female.
No, 13, you are 30. 30 minus 13. Not, I mean, the Nobel Prize of Maths, but okay, so, right, why a male? Those who voted a male. So actually, those who didn't vote or were sleeping or were playing emails, what do we do when we attend talks and conferences and so on? And why a male?
But it seems a little bit arrogant. Like he's talking a lot about himself.
Politically correct. So, yeah, but, okay, political arrogant, and some. Why male?
I think there is also an irony there for the other authors.
So the men are more ironic than women. Yeah.
I think so.
Remember that you are the only man in your could be a problem. I will be leaving in 2 or 3 days. So. Some others who didn't vote, so implicitly voted for mail.
I thought it was a mail because of the use of I and not of
Interesting. And some others who voted for a female. I remember you voted for female.
Yeah, I didn't read it. I just saw.
Just flipping a coin.
No.
Make me happy.
I saw the visual because
This is the way we work in natural language processing.
This is shorter, so it should be a mail. That's what I'm saying.
Wow, this is not a politically correct. And so you voted for female. Why
I
female?
actually think that women are more likely to write in first person, and men are more likely to have a less personal tone.
Okay. Some others that you would like to add on top of what we already commented?
It also seems like the first author writes a lot of junk in addition to the context of the.
So you say that has been written by a male?
No, by a mail, because I think mail typically. That's my opinion.
So we have basically, yes.
It's a female author because she cites the work of most of men, so he describes the he, but she wanted to distinguish herself from the male authors, so she described it as I.
Some other comment? Okay, basically, just to sum up, we have two views, and those who try to be politically correct saying, no, it's, it's junk, not well written, and so on. And those who instead that say more text, women talk more, or, women are not ironic, and so on. So, anyway. Actually, I prepared this sample in a hurry, and I don't remember, but I'll mail you and I'll let you know. But what instead I can tell you that Moshe Koppel, as you see, they started working in 2002 in these problems. So they basically had a balanced data of prose and other genre, balanced data in terms of gender. And what I can tell you is instead what they infer from this British National Corpus text, that the males use more adjective, more determiners, more modifiers like of. Female use more pronouns, and they, at least in this text, they use more words like for, with, more present tense, more negation. Do you agree? Usually they say no. And actually, it's very interesting to see how not only pronouns, but just to talk about the pronouns, the way they are used. There is a book written by linguistic Pennebaker, very easy to read. And so the secret life of pronouns of what the words say about us. So yes, indeed, the usage of pronouns say a lot of things, not only in terms of gender, but also in terms of personality, for instance. But I won't address this problem today. You can go through the text again. I just highlighted something in red. So in the left text, actually, yes, there are more pronouns, my, he, and so on. And more tenses at the present tense, more verbs, sorry, at the present tense, more negations, well, not or not. And no matter the text on the right is shorter, the occurrence of was high. So, okay, actually I did remember that the text on the left was written by an angel, by a female, and the text on the right by a male. And well, you can see that representing text with very shallow features like stop words, so function words, words without any semantics behind the information of the morphosyntactic information, so part of speech. And the two together, they were able to obtain an accuracy higher than 75%. So, it's seems that the problem is not so difficult. What it seems, if the texts are somehow well written, like in the British National Corpus, and if the corpus is not so big, then big data in a social media noisy text, things and also scores are different. Well, if we move to social media text, that is what we are really interested in. Of course, size matters in the sense that they are shorter, so we cannot really start counting the occurrences of words. And so we have to infer our guess on the basis of something else, and also with respect to the age. So I won't make you vote anymore, don't worry. And but yes, I will ask you what you think, male or female, and approximately teenager, in the 20s or later on in the 30s. What do you think? Is it shorter, so we'll finish the exercise very shortly. Yeah.
I believe it's also female.
Why?
Because it's more emotionally expressive than adult male could be, but could also be a male teenager.
Okay. Feel free to comment something on top of this, but Fiso wrote that they wanted to cry. Men don't cry by definition. At least they don't say they cry usually in a post, they close the door of the office and maybe they cry. And yes, indeed, female. And then with respect to the age, we need to infer this information about taking into account maybe the writing style. I don't know, the character flooding. I'm so bad. I have colleagues that suffer from the Peter Pan syndrome, so they don't want to grow up. They try also to use character flooding, but usually we are too old to do this, and on a daily basis. So yes, in this case, it was a late teenager, and indeed she was a female. Okay, and what Moshe Koppel and company did, so I wanted to start with these two seminal works in order to introduce you to the problem. They work on a corpus of blog posts, and pretty old, but this is an old work that was arrested in 2004. And basically their assumption was, okay, when we grow up, apart from those who suffer from the Peter Pan syndrome, I mean, our writing style changes, okay? So when the way we write now is not similar to the way we used to write when we were teenagers. So that's why there are these age gaps. So underage, then approximately those between 23 and 27, and then those above 33, at least in this exercise, in this work, till 48. And they consider very shallow features, so the words, so words with some semantics behind, so content features, and they use also the information about the style. I don't know, the usage of punctuation marks and character flooding and so on and so forth. I will see some other example later on. And so with the two together, they were able to achieve an accuracy higher than 77% for age, 80% for gender. So once more, you could think that the problem is not so difficult, but we see now that when we have to deal with big data and noisy in social media, numbers are not so high. Of course, I'm especially focusing on the way texts were represented, and not at this stage about the machine learning or deep learning. We are in the pre-deep learning era here. Then we'll see what happened this year in a short time. Right, but it's boring to just focus on numbers, on scores. So they, of course, analyze the data. And they, for instance,
in these blogs, they realized that men, considering the categories of resource or the nuclear resource developed by, again, the psycholinguist I mentioned before, James Penabricker, the men were more talking about their job with respect to females, making money, sports, maybe watching sports on TV. Female were talking more about sex. Every time I have to say that, okay, no matter the name of the category, sex in the broad sense, love, and family, and eating, and those who are not politically correct, why eating? Do they eat more? No, maybe because husbands were watching TV on the sofa, so they had to prepare the food, the friends, because they care apparently more about the friendship, sleep. Do they sleep more? No, actually, lack of sleep. We are lucky when our children are sick and mommy, so we can sleep a little bit more. But it's a fact that talking about emotion, that they usually express more from a statistical viewpoint, emotion, positive and negative emotion, than what usually men do in their texts. Of course, you can do things, more things, and so this is just an example, but think that maybe you want to analyze the comments of users about your the new product of the company you are working for, or your tool of computer vision you just developed and you launched it on the market. So it's not only a matter of having an idea about the polarity, but also who could have been not so happy with respect to the service. And so you can put the things together. So what they did, they wanted to understand what were the topics that could be somehow very discriminative in order to be able to understand what the subgroup especially talk about a specific topic. And so something similar could be done in another domain, of course. With respect to this, so they put together the most informative words, the most 1,000 informative words for the age identification, also gender identification. They plotted in a logarithmic scale, and they were interested in focusing on outliers like well, what are the words, the topics that, for instance, female in the 30 especially talk about. Okay, something similar can be done in another domain. In your opinion, what could the females in this corpus talk mainly about? Could have talked mainly about? Husband, the wife, husband watching the TV on the sofa while female were prepare the food and so on. And so it's important, so think about the service, okay, the new mobile of a certain company. So talking about maybe let's focus on the negative comments, let's plot them. So okay, let's suppose that we find an outlier like this. So female in the 30 for some reason are not happy with the new product, so it's a way to start to analyze further what is behind these comments. So if you have to deal with the big data, you cannot do that with all the data, so you have to narrow that. Okay, so as you could see, I mean, women in all this year trying to address several aspects. So we started addressing the problem of inferring age and gender information from social media data, and this is what I will share with you briefly. Then, we also addressed the same problem, but in Twitter, in TripAdvisor, in blogs. We also addressed the personality recognition,
cross-genre. Sometimes you have your model that learn from data from Twitter, but then you have to infer this information from data from Facebook. And the language variety identification I mentioned, native language identification, multimodal. So for those of you who work with images, we also try to consider the information of the images that because of a URL in a tweet. And this year, the very last year, we focus on both and gender profiling. So before discriminating, given a feed of tweets, if been written by a bot or by a human, in case of a human, if it was a male or a female. So we'll briefly comment something about the first edition of this auto-profiling shared task. And we see we are in the pre-deep learning era, and so deep learning wasn't used, and we see what happened this year with respect to the shared task instead. Right, so no matter there were well-known colleagues that have been working on the problem since a while. The shared task had not been organized, so many teams registered, 64 at the end, only 21 submitted results because they had already some difficulties in processing big data in between quotes, so 400,000 text is not really big data, but for some approaches, kind of. What was also maybe interesting was that we, by the way, I cannot see if the cipher is colored. The color is not, but anyway, maybe no things from Cyprus in 2013. So actually, I hope Cyprus could be represented in 2020. And we included also check lines of a potential pedophile. Some colleagues from Switzerland organized the previous year a task where the aim was identifying if the person was a potential pedophile. Why that? Because we wanted to see if the best system were able to infer the right age, okay, the right gender. Usually behind this are men. But the right age was important because they pretended to be younger, but they are adults. And actually, the best system didn't have any problem to spot them. We rely on what Moshe Koppel was one of the co-organizers, approached the problem, addressed the problems in terms of these three age groups with the gap in between, and we didn't want to organize the task only in English, but also in Spanish. Yeah, because the Spanish ministry is the one who sponsored the task. So if tables with results are always boring, but if you look at the best systems in English and Spanish, they didn't, and if you more or less remember the numbers I shared with you before, I mean, are quite below, so the best systems in terms of age identification, 64 in terms of accuracy, and the gender even the same in Spanish and a little bit more difficult in English, below 60%. So a lot of room for improvement. And actually, the system improved in the next editions. What maybe could be interesting is to see that teams try to approach the problem not considering just those shallow features that I mentioned that were used at the very beginning by Moshe Koppel and company, but so not only part of speech information, morphosyntactic information, but they also try to represent the text taking into account the frequency of punctuation marks, capital letters, and they also try to take into account the usage of emoticons, and that implies some emotion there, and actually they try to consider emotion words, so words that could somehow trigger a specific emotion, for instance, one of the 6 of the Ekman basic emotion. And the text were represented as a sequence of words by someone, so
word n-grams or even a sequence of character n-grams. Readability measures were used in order to somehow to infer the complexity of the text, because the youngers maybe write in a less informal, less complex way, and so on and so forth. Of course, we don't have time. If you are interested, I can share with you the slides, and there are overviews. There is an overview for each of the tasks, and you can investigate this further. Yeah, before finishing with the task we organized this year, just to say something about the way we approach the problem together with the former PhD student of mine. Of course, we don't only organize the shared task, that is also, I think, something positive, but it's a matter then to compare ourselves with the best systems of that participate in the shared task that we organize. We don't do it at the time of the shared task. Some people could perceive it as not fair, and so yeah, we do. So basically, what Francisco and what Kiko had in his mind was, I mentioned already the role that emotion can play also in auto-profiling. So we had in mind to consider emotions, but in the framework of the discourse. So, I mean, he meant to see exactly where in the discourse analysis where emotions were used. Okay. So, the example is in Spanish, but I translated into English. We mainly work in Spanish, but we apply the approach to English text as well. We use a tool for natural language processing people that know it is the Freeman. So basically it's a matter to infer the morphosyntactic information, and for each word to represent each word as a node of a graph, and to take into account the sequence of how the words have been used in the text and in discourse via edges between nodes. Just summarizing it. We'll miss most of what we'll be saying, but just to give you a flavor of the approach. So have been talking courses, Spanish before courses, then we expanded this information with what possible courses, taking into account the information that could be extracted from WordNet, for instance, online about subjects, again in Spanish before, so the same morphosyntactic tag, so an edge towards the same node that we had before. Valuable, okay, this is an adjective, but the valuable is not only an adjective, but it's a positive, so talking about the polarity, something positive, something valuable. And some valuable that, enjoy is a verb, but what kind of verb? Well, if you enjoy something, there is an emotion there, so it's a verb that implies an emotion, but what kind of emotion? First of all, it's a positive emotion, unless you are a masochist. This is another story, and then you come across to something negative. So enjoy is talking about the 6 basic Ekman emotion, is the joy emotion. Study is a verb of the class understanding. We use the Levin taxonomy in order to distinguish between the different categories of verbs. So studying belongs to the understanding category. And that might is a verb of the category will. Help is a verb, but to help someone is a positive. And to speak is a verb that belongs to the category language, to the verb category of this taxonomy that is called language in public, and also, well, public. This information has been extended with the information provided by WordNet, a source that is pretty popular in natural language processing. And the full stop. we also wanted to try to model the usage of punctuation marks. So think that we are approaching the problem from an author profiling perspective. So we have a different text of not just one author, but of authors that belong to the same class. So for instance, females, for instance, males, for instance, those the teenagers. Okay. So at the end, you come up with something like this that I think doesn't need any further description because everything is clear. Well, it's not, but what you can see, if you can see something, that some edges are thicker because of the relationship, the edges, this morphosyntactic information refer to words of this kind was more frequent than some others, but yeah, you cannot really see anything from there. So it's a matter to, from this mess, from this graph representation, that try to model the discourse analysis of a certain class of authors, it's a matter to extract meaningful features and then to represent the text of this author category with this set of features to feed this the text represented by this set of features to a classifier, super data machine, for instance, and then at the time of the evaluation, when the new text represented by the same set of features are given to the classifier, supposedly the classifier learned how to model the different way that, for instance, female write with respect to males, so the classifier is able, with a certain accuracy, to say, oh, this text was written by a female or by male. Yeah, so talking about the meaningful information that had to be extracted from there. Hurry up. So we took into account information on the basis of the structure of the graph and on specific nodes. So we wouldn't make any sense to enter into detail, but just to give you a flavor. So information like the ratio of the nodes and edges. So this somehow represent how complicated the discourse of this auto profiling class is. The weighted average degree, so how much interconnected some grammatical categories are, the diameter of the graph, so how far certain grammatical categories are from others, so an emotion from a certain topic, okay? For instance, density, how each grammatical category is used in combination with others, modularity, if you can model somehow the discourse in different structural or stylistic units, and so on and so forth. So information like this. And with respect to the information that could be extracted by certain nodes, well, some nodes, basically on the basis of a well-known concept like eigenvector and betweenness, it's important to extract informations like eigenvector, the grammatical categories with that have the most central use in the author's discourse. Maybe some norms, because certain topics have been mentioned many times, or maybe words that don't have apparently any semantic behind, but they are pretty useful because they are connectors between the different parts of the discourse, like a preposition, conjunction, and so on. And he wanted, so the initial aim was to see, let's see if emotion can help in order to profile demographics information of a class of authors. Okay. But let's see if it makes more sense to take into account where exactly certain words that trigger emotions were used in the discourse. So he wanted to compare himself with an approach that they used took into account the usage of certain emotion words related to the 6 basic Ekman emotions, but has 6 features more in the vector representation of the text, apart from standard features like the word frequency, punctuation mark, the part of speech, and the emoticons. So he compared himself with the best teams. So you can see the emotion graph, that is the one where the discourse analysis was taken into account, that perform better in terms of age and gender, both, and better than just taking into account emotion as 6 features more without considering where exactly the emotional words were used. And the results were not significantly, so the difference was not statistically significant with respect to the first and second best system. So this is another way to approach the problem that shows us the importance also of taking into account emotion. Okay. Of course, this then the comparison was carried out not only on social media data, also Twitter, blogs, TripAdvisor, also in English. So results were seen. I talked before about the verb taxonomies. Also, in terms of the usage of verb, we can see that the females use more verbs related to emotion. So it's another way to see that they express themselves more the emotion. And of course, the usage of these verbs changes with respect when we grow up. So also females, not only males, decrease in the usage of emotion. And then in the last 15 minutes I have, I would like to share with you instead what we have organized this year. And so we wanted to give a feed of tweets to see how difficult or how easy it was just taking into account the textual information, if it was possible to infer that those tweets had been written by a bot and not by a human. Okay. A similar task was organized, if I don't remember the exact year, but let's say approximately a couple of years ago by DARPA in the States, but they consider meta information. And we wanted just to do the same exercise, but on the basis of text. Right. And of course, why the importance to organize a shared task like this? Because we know that both every time play an important role, and so they may influence people not only from a commercial perspective, but also from a political and ideological perspective. I mentioned at the beginning of my talk about what happened with Cambridge Analytica and the final results apparently in the States. And moreover, they play also an important role in relation to what Anastasia will be talking tomorrow. At the time of spreading fake news and polarize even more the communities in social media with respect to controversial topics. Because they can also send messages that are very inflammatory. They contain a lot of hate speech. And well, talking about the Catalan issue, actually we organized a couple of short tasks analyzing the tweets in Catalan and Spanish, but I'm not talking about what we did. I talk instead about what other colleagues in Italy and the States did. We came up with a corpus of approximately a bit less than 4 million of tweets. And I was pretty shocked when I read this interesting paper. Approximately 24% of tweets have been generated by bots. And 19% of interaction were from bots to humans. And the kind of tweets that have been generated and spread by bots contain a very inflammatory hashtags with the hope was to reach an influencer of maybe a community, maybe the pro-independent community in this case, and once this inflammatory tweet is shared by an influencer of the community, okay, goes viral. So I guess your Catalan is like my Greek, and so there were, at least for most of you, and there were hashtags created in Catalan both, apparently, like "Son unas bestias de animals," referring to the way police acted, preventing people to have a referendum. But indeed, these things happened, but I mean, the aim was to spread this hate even more. So important. And then not only we wanted to see how difficult or easy it was to discriminate these tweets being written by bots, not by humans, but also what are the most difficult bots to detect. Okay.
Can I ask something?
Yes, please.
So you mentioned 19% were interactions of bots to humans. That implies that also humans responded to the bots, or?
There are other statistics, but I don't remember the other percentage. No, this was interaction, just tweets that were sent, given users, humans. I mean, the 19% of tweets they received were from the bots. The same percentage with respect, if I remember properly, retweets, mentions, and so on. And there were other percentage about replies and so on, but I don't remember them. So I just wrote the two most shocking, in my opinion, percentage. Okay, so it's very important, and then maybe with the group working on this, on similar topics, we can discuss it further later. It was important how to build the corpus. Of course, I mean, it's important to organize a shared task, but it's important to minimize the error, and important to come up with a decent, good corpus, because otherwise you bias the research towards certain aspects of the corpus that maybe you didn't take into account. So basically, we wanted to make sure that certain tweets have been written by bots, so we consider certain data sets of tweets that were still valuable, so they were actually defined as bots. And my colleague working in a company, so he knew also, because of what they work on, about the bots that spread information about certain topics. Okay. And with respect to humans, okay, we rely on what we collected the previous year for the shared task. And of course, no matter this, manual annotation was done. And in case of disagreement, actually, the data was discarded. So we came up, for each author, we had a feed of 100 tweets, okay? And pretty much balance, as you can see, between female and male, and in English and in Spanish, and between bots and humans. And so in English a little bit bigger, 3,380 authors, for each author 100 tweets. And for balance between humans, 6,660 authors, balance between the bots and human, and in Spanish, slightly less than 4,800. You can think, oh, this is actually, I'm sure you don't think this is a big data. So this is not a big data, but it was important to be sure about the quality, the decent good quality of the corpus So these are the numbers we were able to come up with. Of course, this, as we'll see, if I don't talk too much, we'll see that has an impact on the best performing approaches, because deep learning approaches didn't have enough data to generalize. But yes, this was what was possible to do. So first step. What could be interesting for you is to understand that bots can be different. Some bots can be more difficult than others to be detected. So we have a very simple bots to be detected, like we call them a template. So they have a predefined structure, template, and they talk about, I don't know, job offers, about the earthquake news in Japan. So, you know, very specific. Feed, so those that retweets, share news about something or someone, Trump, the latest news of Trump, okay, all the stuff about Trump. Quote, that basically quotes text from celebrities, songs, books, and so on. And the most intriguing one, from another language perspective, and not only, those where language actually was generated. Even not the literal language, but also figurative language, maybe metaphors were employed, like in one of the words we analyzed. Yeah, concretely talking about this very difficult boat, it was developed in UCB in Ireland by the team of Tony Hill, and basically they come up with automatically generated text like the one you see, where some playwrights use inspired metaphors, the way programmers use inspired arts and so on. Anyway, text that use metaphors and sounds like natural. We use accuracy, okay, in order to distinguish between both the humans and the gender. This year, maybe because of the topic, we had the biggest number of participants, 56, but one we let him participate anyway. The team was late, but so it was ranked in the official ranking. So 56 from 56, sorry, from 26 countries, different countries. Again, unfortunately, Cyprus is too big, but I don't think it's right.
Okay,
Next year, I want the Cyprus right, please, or the color you have me. Okay, the last interesting part. First of all, how texts were pre-processed, and so maybe some information was not taken into account. Then how texts were represented in the vector representation, and then what were the approaches that have been used. So some teams, so as you can see, I mean, there isn't the magic way to solve the problem. So some teams, for instance, lowercase everything, some others didn't consider stop words, and so on and so forth. So every team had his own recipe. What instead is a little bit more interesting is in what features were used. So the stylistic features we talk about. So I don't know, the morphosyntactic information, the usage of punctuation marks, etc. Engrams. So text can be represented as a sequence of words or even sequence of characters, then emotional features. And there were teams that really approached the problem differently. It was pretty much interesting. So like the text, they could be different, the text written by bots and by humans. Another one that use a fingerprint in DNA-based approach, but okay, what maybe is more interesting is that in comparison to the previous edition, few teams, of course, use the embeddings, and nowadays very much popular in represent the text. And with respect to methods, as I said, the corpus unfortunately was bigger, but not big enough. So you can see that the pretty standard machine learning approaches like a supervector machine were the ones that have been used, but you can also see that many teams also use the nowadays fashionable deep learning techniques, RNN, CNN, BERT, and neural networks, before neural networks, SDM, and so on. Right. Of course, you always have to provide some baseline to compare with, but it's not so interesting at this point because it's already too much. What you could see if we just focus, well, if we have a look at the gender identification results in case, I mean, the field of tweets being written by humans, you can see that the numbers, scores, in terms of accuracy are pretty higher than the first edition. The first edition was 64 for Spanish, 60 for English. Instead, now, I mean, the state of the art, at least in Twitter, is approximately 80 something. So 81 in Spanish, 84 in English was this year. So above 80 instead than above the 60. So from 2013, in these 7 years, I mean, the state of the art improved. But with respect to the first part of the exercise, discriminating between the bots and the human, if you look at the results, okay, I mean, the results were pretty high, 95 in English and 93% in terms of accuracy. So you could think it's an easy task. Indeed, it wasn't difficult, but there is a but. So it's possible to discriminate just on the basis of textual information. But what could be, yeah, well, before to say what could be actually important, interesting, and difficult, yeah, as you can see, as I mentioned, the best approaches rely on basic classical machine learning approaches like a supervector machine with kind of classical features like anagrams of words, the statistic features, etc. But what is important maybe to see that it was more difficult. So there were more mistakes, more bots have been misclassified as human than not vice versa. I just presented the results in English, with the Spanish were pretty similar. And with respect to the misclassification in terms of gender, more mistakes were made. So when a bot was misclassified as a human, was mainly more misclassified as male, as it was written by a male than a female. What instead could be, in my opinion, very much interesting is that if you look at the percentage of the different types of bots, as I told you, I mean, we rely on the bots that were well known also in the company where my colleagues work. Of course, it was much more easy to come across to the simple types of bots, like the ones template they talk about jobbing cycles, so the one that they share feeds about Trump, the one that they quote what Messi said recently, and the advanced ones that are actually the most difficult ones to detect were very small, small number, so approximately 20% in the English data set, not even 9% in the Spanish one. So on overall, they didn't have all the mistakes that the approaches made at the time of identifying this metaphor of advanced bots didn't have on overall the impact on the accuracy, the total accuracy, but yes, I mean, a lot weren't able to detect it. So if the future is going, if our future is to have to process information written in natural language that has been maybe written automatically, artificial intelligence, by intelligent bots that use even not only natural language, even a figurative language like a metaphor. So if this percentage increases, as it seems to be the case, then the problem is not easy. So it will be easier, unfortunately, to convince us about I don't know, some political ideology, because or some if we receive a certain inflammatory content. If we read the text that is very difficult to be distinguished by a human, I think the text written by a human. So we could have a problem in the next future, no matter the good results that we could see in this task. And indeed, yes, majority of mistakes were in terms of identifying properly the advanced bots. Also with the feed one was kind of difficult because many humans retweet news about certain topics, so they were misclassified in the opposite sense as a bot. And yeah, you see, for instance, this one that was an advanced one is not a perfect English, but I have a transfer to the local library, go you. It's my English. Just be crazy, John's prepaid, simple, okay, but it's kind of a natural language, so difficult sometimes to actually have students that have the right to the worst. It's automatic, so it's difficult to distinguish. And then, yeah, you see male, female, male, female, male, female, male, female, no matter the type of boat, more misclassification of properly both. So, highest confusion from both to humans, and mainly towards males, as we say. And this is an important aspect, in my opinion, to highlight 30% of error in case of the advanced boats. So if the future of artificial intelligence is using these boats in order to communicate with us, it will be difficult for us to understand if actually the text that we received was written by a human. Yes, so it's feasible to just rely on textual features, so natural language processing is important. And yeah, when the language used by boats, especially advanced boats, is not only natural, but also employs figurative language like metaphors, is pretty difficult. So this is a major category of the false positive, but also the way around. The feed type was also kind of difficult because many of us shared like a feed bot, many news about certain. To sum up, yeah, this is what we tried to approach during this year, and we are pretty happy that we had a good number of participants, and especially this year. And not only from academy, but also from industry. So industry was also involved in the organization, in the sponsorship of the task, and also, we had the industry participate in the task during this year. And not only industry, this year we had, for instance, the Swedish Defense Research Agency. They were very much interested in both identification, of course. And just 10 seconds of advertisements. So it's Cyprus in action next year, together with Anastasia and another colleague, will be organizing a task not on fake news identification, but on the profiling those users that are more likely to spread the fake news. So the ratio between the truthful news and the fake news is lower, higher, we consider the fake news as than the numbers. Yeah. So this this is the end. Thanks for your